Karen in the kitchen. This episode is going to be entitled Motorcycles and Maters. My grandson will be happy about that because he likes maters off of cars. But motorcycles and three-wheelers were a big part of my life growing up as a kid. Many hours were spent doing that. And I'm not going to tell you my age, but I am a grandmother and I'm still a tomboy and I still like to ride. My husband did a lot of riding himself too. Now his riding was a little different from ours. Ours were mud holes and turn rows, and his was a little more like enduro, but it was something that we enjoyed as a family. We used to take our kids and go riding, and certainly our boys enjoyed it very much, so it was a lot of fun for us. So we just thought we'd kind of combine some memories from doing that kind of thing, along with something that I do every year whenever my tomatoes start coming in. And that is putting my tomatoes up, roasting them in the oven, and putting them up in the freezer to use year-round. So what I'm going to do is just pick some tomatoes, and then we'll go on inside and show you what we do to roast those up and get them put away for the season. So let me pick a few tomatoes now. We've been getting a lot of tomatoes. Some are medium sized, but then we've got some that are really big that have not quite gotten ready yet. Gosh, oh, this is a nice one. It's a little weird looking, but look how pretty that is. If you grew up out in the country or have lived in the country, gardening is, and life in general, is about the seasons and the changing of the seasons, and you really cannot be a true country gardener and be a procrastinator at the same time, because you have to get it when it's in season. So that's what we've been doing, a lot of gathering and putting things up. We've already put up some cream corn, green beans. I put up a little bit of squash and zucchini as well. We're going to be cutting up some of that okra and putting it in the freezer, and what we're working on today are the tomatoes. They're in season, but something I wanted to emphasize is you do not necessarily have to live in the country anymore. If you have access to a great farmer's market or produce stand, you can do what we're going to be doing here today. But I'm going to go over to the table and pick out some pretty tomatoes and fill this platter up right here, and then show you what we're going to do to roast those. I've been doing this for a lot of years, so I kind of have it down to an art. I'll do about 3 cookings a year of our tomatoes and put up all that I want into the freezer. But look how gorgeous these tomatoes are. We broke a plant, and so we have some green tomatoes, but hey, fried green tomatoes is good as well. So what I'm going to do is pick out the ripest tomatoes here. Doesn't matter how big, doesn't matter how small. And we're going to fill this platter up right here, and that's going to make room for the tomatoes that we just picked. And I kind of keep this cycle going all summer long till I get what I want put up in the freezer. And then we certainly give to family and friends and that kind of thing. And the kind of tomatoes that I use, I just buy whatever they have available. Look at that, isn't that gorgeous? We had a little bit of trouble here at the beginning of the season with blossom rot on the ends, but we got that under control. At first we thought we were going to really have a bad season, but we got it under control and it's doing okay. Look at this platter here. Let's see if we can get one more tomato on there. I think so. Look how good that looks. Now, I'll just kind of condense this and add the new tomatoes that I'm starting to work on the tomatoes. I wanted to show you what we're doing. Basically, all we're doing is coring them out right here. And I like to cut the bottom just to make sure it sets flat and it's not going to be rolling around my pan. So see, this is what we're doing. We're going to finish this platter right here. Now, once I get through with that, let me show you what else we're going to add to that. These are the peppers out of our garden here. I'm going to just kind of eyeball it here, clean these up, cut the stems off, and just cut them into little strips. And we're going to stuff them into each one of these tomatoes, okay, each one of these, and fill them up really nicely. And then we're going to do salt and pepper. And remember, tomatoes can take a lot of salt, but I don't overdo it when I'm roasting the tomatoes, because depending on what I'm going to put it in, chili, spaghetti, a marinara sauce. I also make a stuffed bell pepper with some ground sausage, and I use some of this tomato sauce. It's really, really good. So I use it for a variety of things. So whenever I take it out of the freezer, I add the different seasonings depending on the type of dish that I'm making. I love to throw in the fresh herbs, sometimes some grated onion in there if you're doing a really good marinara. There's just a variety of things. Now once I do the salt and pepper, I'm going to also drizzle it with a little bit of olive oil. And I've already got my oven heating on bake and 250. This is low and slow, as they say. But it doesn't really take that long. Now, I've done this enough that I kind of can tell when it gets to a certain smell that they're about to get ready. I'll reach in and kind of touch the tomatoes inside of the oven and feel them. You'll see the skin begin to wrinkle a little bit on there. We don't want to burn the tops of the tomatoes. Sometimes I have to cover it just to make sure that I don't get my peppers and things like that charred on the ends. And then I will turn the oven off and just let them sit in there and get completely cold. And then once we do that, we take that out of the oven, and I'll show you what we do, because we're going to take that skin off and puree this and then put it into our freezer bags. But we'll show you that when we get to that process. Let me get busy and finish this up and get it in the oven. All right, we just about have it ready. I'm going to just drizzle a little bit of olive oil on the top. This number of tomatoes is just right so that the pan doesn't run over with the juices, because you're going to get a lot of really good juices. And I'll tell you something else, your whole house is going to smell so good from these tomatoes. Oh my goodness, look how pretty that is. All right, I can't tell you the aroma. I won't be able to describe it. It just smells wonderful. But it takes about an hour, so I'm going to stick this in the oven, bake in 250. These are the peppers out of our garden, tomatoes out of our garden, salt and pepper and some olive oil. And that's all I'm going to put on here, because then I'm going to leave that as a basic flavor profile. And then depending on the dish that I use it in, I can jazz it up once I take it out of the freezer. So let's stick this in the oven. Ginger, watch out there, girl. Okay, now really low and slow, and just letting everything marry in there together. The tomatoes have those peppers, and I included the seeds as well. The fun thing about gardening is sometimes you don't really know what kind of flavor you're going to get. My son-in-law, that's married to my youngest daughter, swears I tried to kill him one year. The peppers had a little more heat in them than normal, and I used it in my spaghetti sauce. He ate 2 huge bowls. He loved it, but then it was killing him later on that night. So we always laugh about that, but I just love how it turns out, and I love how it tastes in all of my dishes. Very easy thing to do. And if you don't have your own garden, go to your local farmer's market. You can do the same thing and put a few bags up in the freezer to have for the rest of the year. We'll let this go for a while and show you what it looks like once it's cooled completely down, and then show you how we take that skin off and just puree it and bag it up to put it in the freezer. And it's a little bit of an art to that as well, to know how much to put and to make sure that it's going to lay flat and freeze like you want it to. We'll check it out in probably about an hour and a half or so. Tomatoes are roasted and done and completely cooled. Take a look. It had the whole house smelling good, and we're going to use this juice right down here in the bottom too, because there's a lot of flavor there. But look how great it turned out. Now what I'm going to do, let me show you this. The skin comes off really easy. Now this has been kind of trial and error for me over the years. The first couple years that I tried to do the tomatoes, I left the skin on them, and it just really wasn't as good. So this peels right off of here like this very easily. But I leave the peppers whole in there. I don't take those out, because all of this is going to get pureed together right here in my Cuisinart. Okay. Oh, there's still a little piece on there. Get that off of there. Now, the reason that I do it like this and put it in the freezer is because I just simply don't have the space for canning. I just don't have shelf. I don't have closet, pantry. I just don't have any space to put it. So I have a freezer outside. Not a great big one, but kind of one of those medium-sized ones. And I really try to keep all of my vegetables that I put up during the summer. I rotate everything around where I have the oldest stuff on top, and then use it first. And I really kind of try to time it where by the time the garden is coming in again, that I pretty much have used everything from the previous season, so everything that's going into the freezer will be the new stuff, and it'll all be fresh, and we'll have it for the next year to come. But look how easy that is. There's nothing to do in that. Getting that skin off of there. Now what I'm going to do is load this up really well, and then puree it. I'm putting this juice in here, but look at my bags here as well. I've labeled those. Those are some little freezer bags. Something that I find very helpful is to measure not just to guesstimate how much tomato sauce I'm putting in there. So when I puree, I'm going to pour into that it's actually a pancake bowl right there, but then I'm going to measure out about 1.5 to 2 cups of my tomato sauce in each of my little bags there, my little quart-size bags. And then I'm going to lay them flat on the cookie sheet and put them in the freezer on the cookie sheet so that whenever it does freeze, they'll be nice and flat and even. And then it's easier to reach in, grab one, take it out, thaw it out, and then throw it into whatever I might be cooking. Like I started this segment talking earlier, you know, you can't be a procrastinator living out in the country. You know, as the seasons come and go, certain things are in season. You got to get after it, get it, put it up, and then you have it for the rest of the year. And this is one of those things that I really enjoy doing. And even if you don't live in the country, you can go to your local farmer's market and do the same thing. All right, it's all pureed. Take a look at that. Let me get a spoon and just take a taste of that. I like to keep the flavor profile pretty basic. That's delicious, just like that right there. Oh my goodness. You can use it as your tomato sauce on your pizzas, spaghettis, chilies, marinara sauce. I made a great marinara out of this last year. Meatloaves, so many things you can use this for. So I'm going to dump this right in here. Whoops. Get that out because I got to use it again. And then we're going to finish up, and then we're going to measure it out. This is what I would do next, is put it in here and measure it out, about 1.5 cups or so. And then put it into my freezer bag. And lay them flat on that cookie. Well, I think that about wraps it up for this episode of Motorcycles and Maters with Karen in the Kitchen.